Hi, I'm Chris.
Hi, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
It's the first episode of the month, and you guys know what that means. It's time for us to shoot the flames. If you haven't heard one of these Shooting the Flames episodes before, this is a chance for Chris and I to sort of sit down and have a conversation about horror news, upcoming movies, trailers that have been released, what we've watched, what we can recommend, and most importantly, comments and questions from you, our listener. And that's where we're going to start with right now. We've gotten a lot of reviews over the last month. And I mean, surprisingly, well, I shouldn't say surprisingly because we're awesome, but I mean, more than usual, I think. And so we really appreciate it when you guys leave us those reviews either on Apple Podcast or in some cases Facebook for this month. And so let's just read a couple of those off.
The first one's from Erica from the Customers Also Watched podcast. I've been subscribed for a while and love both their discussions of individual movies as well as them shooting the flames to keep me up to date on what's new and what they've been watching. Highly recommended for fans of horror and fans of movies in general.
Erica, thank you so much for that review. We love your show too very much. The concept of her show is amazing, guys. So she'll like pick a movie and then on the also recommended or customers also watched segment on Amazon Prime, she'll just watch whatever is listed there. And so she's like going down this rabbit hole of trash for the most part, and it's so fun to listen to her podcast.
It's a really cool concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. So Erica, thank you so much. Love your show. You keep it up too, okay? We have another review on Apple Podcast. It says, part of my regular rotation, love it, keep it up, guys. And that is from NYC Forever Lad. And not sure who you are, but thank you so much for that review.
The next review we have is from Ashley from Facebook that says, fun and insightful. Really love their take on horror films. Well, thank you, Ashley.
And Ashley also sent us another comment on Facebook, and she had said, I listened today for the first time and I'm hooked. Love your Rosemary's Baby and Annabelle episodes. Would love to hear your take on any of these films one day. Hereditary, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Exorcist, It Follows, The Final Girls.
You know, I can't imagine us not doing any one of those films. Although we did, of course, comment back and we responded back and said that we actually did cover The Final Girls with
Scream Queens.
Yeah.
Way back in October for his podathon, sort of a fundraiser for LGBT homeless. And he's doing it again this October, so maybe we'll be invited back on the podcast. And I think as far as that movie goes, I think Chris and I like it enough that maybe one day we might do a full episode on our own of it, right?
Yeah, really, there's a lot to say.
Certainly It Follows. I know for a fact, Ashley, just stay tuned, and eventually we are going to get to It Follows because we both love that movie very, very much.
We also have a brand new patron. Thank you so much, Ben.
That's right. And I don't want to create, a whole lot of competition on Patreon or anything, but currently he's our highest paying patron right now. So, I mean,
step it up.
Not necessarily that. But like Ben, pretty much at this point you can just run the show, right?
Yeah, yeah. Essentially anything you ask, we're your slaves.
That's right. So get on that, Ben.
Tell us what to do because we don't know what to do anymore. No, there's a plan. We always have a plan.
But thank you, Ben, so much for your support on Patreon. And guys, if you go to patreon.com/thefilmflamers, you can find all of our bonus content and join people like Ben and the other patrons that we have talked about on Shooting the Flames. And there's tons of bonus content and you can interact with us. And we have a whole lot more coming soon on that particular platform. So go over there and check it out.
Next up, we've got listener comments.
That's right. So we post all of our episodes on social media, both Facebook and Twitter. And a lot of times we get a lot of comments or DMs about the specific episodes that we do. And first up, we have some comments from our top 10 horror comedies that we did back in April.
Mm-hmm. And Brock from, of course, the Cocktail Party Massacre says, so many good choices, gents. I think mine are Brain Dead or Dead Alive, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, Dead Snow, Return of the Living Dead, Shaun of the Dead, What We Do in the Shadows, and Little Shop of Horrors.
That's right. Some of those were on our lists.
Yeah.
Right. And I totally forgot about Dead Snow. What a really good movie that is.
I've never seen it.
It's like Nazi zombies. Yeah, it's fun. So,
oh yeah. I wanted to see that.
it's good. Good choices, Brock. We always appreciate your comments, and we trust your opinion in horror movies already. So, I mean, if we haven't seen some of those, we're certainly going to watch them. Battle Burrito on Twitter said the hottest guy in this list was easily Tyler Labine from Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I don't have a face to put to that. Who is this person? Which one is he?
He's a burly, hairy guy. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's hot.
Yeah. So we can see that. We're definitely
I mean, bring on the bears. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Our next comment comes from @Ignatia Striga, and she says, once a mini-sode after we attend a live shadowcast of Rocky Horror.
That's right. So we had talked about the fact that I think you hadn't seen a live version of Rocky Horror, right? Or whenever they do the...
Yeah, I've always meant to. I've been invited several times, just never worked out.
And we had also talked about whether we were unsure if Dallas had one or not. And I looked it up and they do. They do have one. So we can attend this sort of thing. But she wants us to have a little mini-sode about our experience. And I think that's probably something that we can do at some point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll put on my friggin' Furter costume and just go out there.
Okay.
Christy from Facebook actually tagged us in one of her posts. And she said she's listening to the top 10 horror comedies, hoping The Voices make the list. Well, spoiler alert, it did not. And I've never seen The Voices. Have you?
No, I don't even know what it is.
It's Ryan Reynolds. I know that. Like, he
really
hears voices in his head that compel him to kill people. It's a comedy, obviously, but...
When was this?
Pre The Proposal, I think.
Oh, so mid-thousands, early thousands, maybe?
So, but that was the first time on Facebook we've ever been just tagged in a post by somebody before. So super appreciate that. Sorry we let you down with The Voices. She also commented that maybe Slither might make the list, and it didn't. Yeah.
It was a runner-up, definitely.
Yeah, we did mention it as a runner-up. So I hope you enjoyed that, Christy.
Mm-hmm. The next episode that we have comments on is our hot take for Climax.
Trace, who is one of the hosts from Horror Queers, he says, yeah, I was more into it than you guys were. It's more of a sensory experience than a plot-driven film. I loved it, but I really didn't feel it until a few days later. A bit perplexed by your statement that it didn't go far enough. There's incest, rape, and child death, and then he made the shrug emoji. And
yeah, I don't know that a lot of that was implied, or it just kind of showed very cursory glances of those things.
Well, and I think based on our conversation on Climax, we weren't really talking about expecting, balls to the wall craziness, or maybe we were because we knew it was a drug movie going into it. And
yeah, we kept waiting for the bass to drop only to find out that the bass was always dropping.
Yeah, constantly. I mean, and we know that these things are bad. And, Gaspar Noé was pushing these boundaries or things in this particular movie. But when you're watching a movie that is about drug use, especially a trip like that, you're always expecting something in the film to look distorted or to seem trippy in itself.
Yeah.
And really, he was just trying to create an effect on the viewer like taking drugs.
Very visceral effect. And he succeeded. But I also went into this film thinking or hearing at least it was shocking, and everything else. And it really wasn't. It's the visceral feeling that you get out of this film, not anything over the top or that you hadn't really seen before.
Yeah, I would think that, based on the incest subplot or whatever, unless you were hardcore paying attention to the movie, which we were, but that brother and sister duo.
It certainly wasn't a big plot point.
You would forget at some point, what was going on. They said they were brother and sister at the beginning, and then toward the end is when they're doing it. But to your point, I agree. It took me days after watching this movie to sort of really feel the effects of it and to understand the artistic integrity behind it. And now that it's been released, I am looking forward to watching it again. I really want to compare my first experience to a second one. And maybe we can come back and talk about it again at some point.
Yeah, I feel like I'm finally ready to, I was I don't need to see this film again, but I think I'm finally ready and interested enough that I could see it again.
And I think that is good filmmaking. I think that if you can walk out of a movie and say, well, once is enough for me, and then months later say, no, I think I need to watch it one more time, just to be sure, or to understand what the movie's trying to say or whatever. I mean, that's great filmmaking. It's also good drug making too, I suppose. I mean, like you get that first free piece and then you have to go back again and again. So, I mean, hey.
I just know it's probably not going to happen, at least for me, because even though I'm willing to, because there's just so many things, especially now as a podcaster, like I feel like I need to watch all these newer things that are coming out constantly, you know? So it's just like my backlog is just getting larger and larger, but the things that I need to watch in the here and now is also getting larger and larger. So it's just like impossible to circle back sometimes.
And that's very true. I mean, you know me, Chris, and like how many times do I go back and watch a movie that I've seen 1,000 times already before? I mean, so I will definitely be watching Climax again. In fact, I was scrolling through Amazon Prime last night, just like the recent movies that have come out, and the Prodigy was on there, and we had talked about that on episodes before, and I was like, oh, I really want to watch that, and I kept scrolling, and then Climax was there, and I was just like, do I want to watch Climax again or watch the Prodigy? And I was like, you know, if I had to make my choices right now, I'd probably pick Climax again.
Really?
And what the hell does that say about me as a film watcher, that I wouldn't watch something I had not seen before?
I think that's anything though. I think that's the knee jerk. Like you're more comfortable, you know, you want your peanut butter and jelly or macaroni and cheese rather than, you know.
That's true. I mean,
we reach out to what we're comfortable with or something. And like, there's always that risk of not liking something, especially if we know that it came out with like kind of bad reviews, which is in the case with Prodigy.
Yeah.
Well, we know something that's a safe bet, you know?
And I mean, Climax got, you know, decent reviews. And I mean, while I don't want to sit here and talk about this movie all over again, because we've already done that, I will say that I did message Chris like days afterward and said, like, I'm still thinking about this movie.
Yeah.
And I've rewatched that opening dance sequence like so many times.
I did go back on YouTube and watch that and show other people. That's true.
Well, and I've been listening to that song like a lot, just on like Google Play Music too. So I mean,
such a good song.
I've got to leave Climax alone. So thank you, Trace, for that comment. I appreciate your comments on horror movies too a lot. So keep it coming. If you have anything to say about our reviews, we want to open up a dialogue.
Next up, we have a question from @Ignatia If you were lured into a trap, what would be the bait that gets you through the door and into the killer's lair? For me, it would probably be a giant plate of cheese sticks and marinara.
That might also get me into the killer's lair because I do like fried cheese or fried anything. A fried shoe, I'd eat it.
The first thing that came to my mind was like a friend or a family member like beckoning me or something.
Oh, you're a much better person than I am. Oh my God. Because I was going to say, I mean, like, I'm a pretty simple man and there are a few things that I like, right? But if I were standing in like a doorway, even if I knew it was like going to lead me into danger and there was like a hot guy holding a beer and a cigarette, I'd be like, I'm going in there. So, yeah. I always feel bad after your answers then. You're like, you have to save somebody. And I'm like, I want a beer.
Well, let's pretend you can't choose cheese sticks. Just the guy and the cigarette?
Yeah, I mean, really, if he was like, come in here, I have a cigarette and a beer. I'm like, okay.
There you go.
Every single fucking time it would get me.
All right, well.
Oh. That's a good question, though. Thank you.
Well, you've seen Hostel, so just be careful when you go overseas in the fall.
Well, if I see a hot guy in France holding a cigarette and a beer and beckoning me into a dark corridor, I will think 3 times before I go.
Good.
I mean, but if you're going to die, I mean, die happy. Finally, we have a call-in question to our Film Flamers hotline. If there's anything we enjoy more than comments and questions on social media, it's when you call in and we get to hear your own voice asking us a question.
And this is a voicemail left to us by Stacy. Let's take a listen.
Hi guys, Stacy here. I just finished recently your hot takes on Pet Sematary, and it got me thinking about the current resurgence of Stephen King novels and the remakes that they're doing. I was wondering what you guys would like to see remade, kind of with a modern take, any of the previous films that have been made. Also, a bonus question, if you could have one novel remade that hasn't been done yet from Stephen King, what would that be? I will also accept novellas or a short story. Also, comment, keep up the great work. You guys are doing a great job. Love the podcast. Bye.
Oh. Thank you, Stacy. I've made it no secret that I love Stephen King. I have talked about him at length on Shooting the Flames episodes, and we've brought him up in the past. And I love the resurgence in Stephen King currently. It makes me happy to see anything that's, you know, has his name attached to it. As far as movies that have already been made that I want to see remade, I think mostly I would love to see a remake of Firestarter. The original starred Drew Barrymore way back in the early 80s, and it was really good, but I think that they missed a couple things from that book that we could show on screen today or whatever. And I would love to see what kind of child actress they would choose to play that particular role and what they would do with that movie today.
I think I would like a remake of The Langoliers.
Ooh, yeah.
With updated effects and maybe more like another miniseries or something. So they can do the novels right rather than have it split out up into multiple movies or try and, fit it all into one. I think that is something I would be interested in. And then as far as something that hasn't been done yet, I'm not familiar enough with Stephen King's stuff. I'd really like to see like the Dark Tower series, honestly, done. But I know that was just made into a movie, but it was a shit movie. So
you want to see it done well?
I'd like to see it done well, like as a miniseries, I think.
Yeah. I think,
or even a full series like Game of Thrones style,
I think that would be great. I think that Stephen King lends himself to that long format storytelling. So even like, even though I've already said a remake, I think that like The Stand would also be a good remake. And I think that The Dark Tower as a miniseries, you're right, would be fantastic. And I would love to see that made. As of things that have not been made for me, he wrote a book very early in his career. I think it was under his pen name, Richard Bachman. It was called Rage, maybe. I can't remember the name of the book. So forgive me. I'm sorry. I promise I am a Stephen King fan, but it's really about this guy like holding his class hostage. It was sort of a school shooting story before school shootings happened. And I would love to see what someone would do with that. Because for me, while Stephen King's horror work is great on screen, I think when you have some of his more dramatic storytelling done, they turn out to be just fantastic movies. Mm-hmm. Things like The Shawshank Redemption or Stand By Me. And so if you have a story that's more horror, have a story that's more horror adjacent and not just like straight up in like, horror territory, I think that, we really get to see where Stephen King can shine. And I think that, by and largely, he is one of the greatest storytellers of our time. And really, anything that he's written could be a great movie or TV show. So, there's the shitty answer to your question, Stacey. I'm sorry. Everything. I want to see everything made.
And thank you both for your questions. Please feel free to give us questions on social media or call into our hotline at 972-666-7733.
We'd love to hear your voice, guys. Send them in.
Horror News.
This just in. American Horror Story 1984 cast revealed for the 9th season?
Right, and it's also been renewed up into the 10th season already. So before the 9th season come out, we know we're going to have a 10th season as well.
It just seems so strange that it's already in a 9th season.
Where has the time gone?
Is it really the 9th?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I know, right? I think because, okay, we can get into a conversation about American Horror Story now for a minute, right? And I think that, at least for me, these seasons always start out so promising, especially because they have this huge social media buildup before each season starts. Mm-hmm. And I already feel invested in it before I get to watch the first episode. And then by halfway through the season, I'm already done with it. I'm like, ugh, my God, they don't know how to keep the storyline going at all. How do you feel about American Horror Story in that regard?
They keep trying new things and they keep surprising me. What are they going to do next? And at some point they're not going to be able to go to a bread and butter American Horror Story, right? They're, or something that we expect. They're going to start creating their own mythology, which we've seen a little bit of them do in the past few seasons, especially with Apocalypse, right?
Well, and with that being said, we talked on our last Shooting the Flames episode about the trailer for the new American Horror Story season 9, which is called 1984. And it looks to be a very throwback-oriented 1980s slasher-centric season,
totally.
Which I'm totally game for. I would love to see that.
And Emma Roberts is going to be back.
That's right.
Evan Peters
is out.
He's out?
Yep.
Oh, really?
So it would be the first season without Evan Peters. And he has always been a staple on American Horror Story.
Yeah, he's appeared in all 8 previous seasons.
That's right. And but new to the cast is Gus Kenworthy, right? Mm-hmm. The gay Olympic athlete who is completely fucking hot. He's so hot.
But he's going to be actually a yet unnamed boyfriend of Emma Roberts' character.
Love it. I love her on that show too. Every time she pops up, she's so good. Did you ever watch Scream Queens, which is like the Ryan Murphy's Fox show, right? And it was supposed to take off sort of like American Horror Story and have a different story each season, right? And the first one was based around a sorority, right? And she was such a bitch on that show. It was so fun to watch. I love it. She plays a bitch so well. I will say, like, I like the premise of this, and I also read an article separate from the one that we're talking about now, and they said that if you're a fan of 80s slashers, then you're in for a treat. So, I mean, they're really sort of building this up, and I hope there's not a letdown.
There we go.
I'm in for it. The fifth Purge movie is going to be released in July 2020. So I'm not ashamed to admit that I love this franchise.
I've never seen a single one.
That is bullshit.
No, like I was so intrigued by the premise of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I talked with multiple people, including you, I believe.
Probably.
And I was like, now, does it get into the socio, like, political, like, elements of this stuff? Like and people were like, they kind of reach out for that, and then they just don't do it. It just turns into, not what I was expecting from the trailer.
Not in the very first
I thought
movie.
I wanted to be more cerebral, I guess, like a more of an exploration of, cultural psychology in that kind of situation, right?
And that's really what it has become. The very first Purge.
They do a lot more showing than not telling, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the first Purge is my favorite, but it's sort of an enclosed, small setting, small cast kind of environment on this one night of the Purge. And since then, they have gone to show like what the Purge is like in inner cities, like New York, or they did one in like Staten Island was the latest one. And that was the first Purge to show like how the whole thing started.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it really has become this socioeconomic backdrop to horror. And I really appreciate it very, very much. Eventually, though, I think it's going to run out of steam, and I'd rather them stop while they're ahead. We don't want to get into Saw territory. And by the time we get to like Purge 10, we're just not going to be able to stomach it anymore, I suppose. But I mean, they haven't said anything about what Purge 5 is going to be about. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
The next thing on our list is that the New Mutants are pushed back yet again to April of 2020.
We are never going to see this fucking movie. Ever.
Yeah, we were talking about like Baby Kill Bill. It was like Baby Kill Bill back then. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That's from Game of Thrones. I should say Aya Stark and Maisie Williams.
But Baby Kill Bill is so good, it just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, Baby Kill Bill was a baby when she shot this, and now she's doing full frontals, really.
I mean, for real, though. I mean, like on Game of Thrones, she's like disrobing and boning and whatnot, and then like, meanwhile, New Mutants was made forever ago, at least like 2 or 3 years ago at this point, right? They have been teasing this movie forever. I can remember when it was first announced that it was coming out, and I went to see a movie, and they had the poster up, and that was years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, it's almost unheard of for a studio to like have this kind of push. And
I feel like I saw this trailer like 5 years ago or something.
Yes.
And I know that's not true. It just seems like it, and it's just why is this happening? This happened to It Follows and a couple other movies we've talked about. So I don't know why it's being pushed back. I know that a lot of biggies are getting pushed for the summer and spring releases, like Star Wars and everything else is coming out.
Well, and maybe, I mean, like, isn't there some sort of talk about, like, the X-Men sort of joining the MCU or something like that?
Well, that's happened. Disney has bought the Fox properties for that. So the things like Fantastic Four and X-Men and all of that
Spider-Man
are now...
Oh, wait, is that Sony still?
Sony, so they have their own separate deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all happening. And so theoretically, in the next 5 or so years, we're probably going to get some X-Men films actually done by Marvel Studios. Thank fucking Christ.
I did read something, and it's probably like one of those random articles that people just like lie about when they write about some sort of Avengers versus X-Men movie, right? Did you see that article? I mean, I'm not a huge fan of like superhero movies, but I would watch that.
AVX was a big thing back about 5 years ago in the comics.
Oh, so it actually exists. There's a storyline for this.
There's a whole storyline about it. Yeah. So it was actually pretty interesting. It involves Phoenix and all that stuff. And there's like, they basically just threw everything at the wall to see what would stick in one storyline. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it was pretty epic.
I do like the X-Men, though.
Yeah.
But I will say that when a studio chooses to push a movie back many, many times, oftentimes they think it's because it's bad or it's not going to make any money or something.
Or they're waiting for they're really waiting for the best place in the schedule where they think it will perform the best. And a lot of times that is because it's just they don't have much faith in it. But we keep seeing films that's happened to that are actually good.
Right.
So they really, so a lot of the times that has they want the film to have legs. And if a big giant movie is coming out the next weekend or 2 weeks later or something, then it can't have that legs, right? There's only so much theater going experience to go around.
Do you think, because I know that comic book movies make a lot of money and they have a lot of marketing push behind them, right? And this one is sort of, it is a horror movie involving superheroes. Do you think that maybe the studio thinks it's not going to make any money, right? They don't have the audience for that sort of thing? Or
I don't know. And they already played with, making it like a mini series or something on Hulu, right?
Or just releasing it on Hulu.
Yeah. And yet that's just not happening. So it'll be interesting to see the stories that come out regarding this after it's revealed, like what's all going on behind the scenes here.
Well, and meanwhile, we've already seen a teaser trailer, so I already know it's going to be good. It's got Baby Kill Bill. It's got Anya Taylor-Joy. It's going to be a good movie regardless. Just release it already. My God. So Cannes is going on right now at the time of this recording, and anyone who watches movies knows that the Cannes Film Festival is like the start of the movie watching year, right? So anybody who has made a movie they think is good enters it into Cannes. Things get shown there. It's the start of award season early on.
What's the reward? Isn't like the Palme d'Or?
The Palme d'Or, yeah. It's the main prize at Cannes. And this year at Cannes, a director of note has received the Golden Coach Award, and that is the one and only John Carpenter.
Yay!
And the only reason I found out about this is that my friend Erin, who is also a huge horror fan, sent me a text message. She's like, "Did you see this?" And apparently he showed up to a full auditorium of people who gave him this long standing ovation to celebrate his body of work. And rightfully so. If you're going to have a festival of movies, celebrating movies and the making of movies, John Carpenter is one of those directors, especially horror directors, who needs to be recognized for his body of work.
Between Halloween and The Thing and They Live, you can't get better than that.
You can't. You're right. And John Carpenter has been away from the movie making scene for quite some time. I think his last movie was in 2010, The Woods, right? And he hasn't done a whole lot since then except for put out some music. I think there's some video game stuff, but he said in an interview at Cannes that he is ready to get behind the camera again. He's just waiting for the right project. And if we all know John Carpenter, that project is going to be just immense at this point. He loves to have a lot of political, subtext in his movies. And
yeah,
I think that given the current time period, I think he's probably got something that he's ready to do. At any rate, thank you, France, for honoring John Carpenter. America, get on board. The Oscars are coming up, and I'm sure he can have a Lifetime Achievement Award there too.
Next up, the University of Pennsylvania gets Romero Archives.
That's right. So I know that this university has gotten access and now is in possession of, all the archives that Romero's widow had. And it includes, scripts for all of his movies, especially Night of the Living Dead. It's been annotated.
Probably some film reels.
Yeah. They have some props and things like that from all his sets.
Notes.
And he has many, many unproduced screenplays, right? And so they have access to all that. But in this article, they talk about this university wanting to create an environment and a place for film students or horror film lovers to sort of come and learn about the craft. And I think that they're using this as a building block to add more stuff to it.
Come on, learn about Jorge.
And I love Jorge Romero. And if this library has got things on display for me to look at, I'm going to have to make some sort of pilgrimage. Mm-hmm. So, thank you, Pennsylvania. You've finally gotten me to come to your state.
Coming soon.
We've talked about a trailer for Child's Play before, but they have all been sort of short. And since our last Shooting the Flames episode, where I think we talked about the teaser trailer, they have since released a full one.
Complete with Mark Hamill's weird little voice at the end.
And that's exactly what everybody was waiting to hear. I mean, like, I already know I want to see this movie. The only thing I want to know is, how does Mark Hamill sound? And Chris, where are you on the spectrum of Mark Hamill in this role?
It's going to be good. I have faith in Mark Hamill's voice acting ability and hopefully the direction that kind of led him to do that voice. I like Brad Dourif's voice. I've always liked it. Brad Dourif's amazing and a horror icon himself. However, Mark Hamill is an icon in voice acting history.
Yeah.
And the things that he's been able to achieve in his voice, anything from the Joker to Wolverine, and everything in between, like this completely different voices. And he can do it all. And so I heard a little bit of this and I was like, that's an interesting direction to go in. But, I have faith that in the wider context, it's going to be iconic. So I have complete faith.
And to me, it didn't sound very different from Brad Dourif's Chucky. I mean, maybe a cadence or so off, but I mean, essentially it sounded very similar to me.
And they might be trying to capitalize a little bit on Mark Hamill's celebrity.
Well, that's true.
So, especially with Star Wars resurgence of his career. So,
when I think in the long run, too.
Not that his career has ever suffered.
No, he's always been working. But I know that this movie has got people up in arms like no other. Like, people just don't want a remake of Child's Play, and they don't want Chucky to sound any different than Brad Dourif and blah, 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 blah. And so I could totally see someone saying, well, can you do it a little bit more like Brad Dourif, or whatever, just to like try to get that audience in. But at this point, I mean, either you want to see it or you don't.
I would like to know the story behind that. Maybe it's as simple as Brad Dourif didn't want to go back and do it again.
It's possible. I mean, he's still doing like Child's Play movies now. So, I mean, like, Cult of Chucky came out, a year or two ago, and he still did the voice. I don't know why they didn't go after him.
It's kind of a bread and butter, easy thing to do. Yeah. You don't think that a celebrity would easily give that away. So, who knows? So,
based on this trailer, do you want to see it any more or less than the teaser?
Just the same. I'm looking forward to it because it looks new and different.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I'm going to watch it regardless. I'm going to watch it in the theater. And, it's going to be hard to not compare it. But like we talked about in our Pet Sematary episode, The Hot Take, you just really can't compare these remakes all the time.
Honestly, I think the best voice for Chucky at this point would be Bradley Cooper, based on his voice for Rocket Raccoon.
Oh, wait. I went straight to A Star Is Born. So I'm oh my God, is he going to sing?
One of those. And that would be even creepier. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm in it just because of the actors that are in it, or at least namely one actor that's in it.
Aubrey Plaza. Fucking A.
Yeah.
My God, I'll watch it just for that.
I hope they let her be Aubrey Plaza.
I just went down this weird ass, rabbit hole of a video. I don't know where I saw it. Maybe probably on Facebook because I'm never on YouTube. But it was like this rough cut of Aubrey Plaza on different late night talk shows and how fucking weird she is, right? And it had me cracking up from start to finish. And so I really want to see her in something that's dramatic like this.
You really still need to see her in Legion.
Oh my God, I do need to watch Legion.
I never thought she had acting chops like that. And then there was just one in particular scene where she's just supposed to do basically a music video as this main bad guy or whatever in Legion.
Uh-huh.
And she just goes
she's a villain?
Yes, she's a villain.
Oh, fuck
and
me.
she plays several different flavors of that. It's weird. It's interesting. Yeah, she plays a junkie, and then she also plays with a villain. And she gets this dancing, singing scene or whatever where they just basically said, do what you think is right.
Really?
Yeah. And I went back. I was like, this scene was so masterfully done that they choreographed and everything. It was so great. It just felt right. And I went back and it was yeah, that was just Aubrey Plaza doing what she wanted to do. I was like, what?
Oh my God. I am so intrigued at this particular moment. I love Aubrey Plaza. So yeah. Okay. I'm going to watch that. The next trailer that was released recently was a trailer for the movie Crawl,
where people do a lot of swimming.
Yeah, but they're not the ones crawling. A particular animal is crawling.
But they're also swimming.
That's true.
These animals are squiggling through the water. Well, and people are swimming in the water, and it's about a flood. It's almost seems like a hurricane.
Yeah, there's a hurricane,
natural disaster based.
Yeah.
Flood where they're trying to escape their houses and but there's something in the water. And so they're swimming around, the monsters are swimming around, they're under the surface, and the movie's called Crawl.
Well, it's an alligator. And they can crawl.
Is it? Is it an alligator?
Yeah,
I thought it was tentacles and shit.
No, it's an alligator.
Oh.
Yeah.
Didn't show the alligator in the trailer?
Yeah, I think they did.
Really?
It's about an alligator.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was like sci-fi.
So like, no. So like the flood comes, right? The hurricane comes and the flood hits the home and your home is underwater. And the water that's rushing in also has alligators in it who are trapping these people in a monstrous alligator. I would assume bigger than normal. I mean, probably not like placid size, but still formidable.
I thought they alluded that it was like something different.
And it could be
but that actually makes me more intrigued if it's like a real world situation.
Yeah. So it's people trapped in their house with an alligator.
Oh, see, I thought it was more of like a worldwide, like the things came in with the flood type of situation. Maybe I watched too much Us. Anyway.
Oh, poor Jordan Peele. Yeah. So, I mean, but like this movie looks like so much fun just for that. I mean, like people trapped in a house with an alligator, not to mention the director of this movie is one of my favorite new horror directors, Alexandra Aja, right?
What else did he do?
High Tension.
Oh, yeah.
And the Hills Have Eyes remake.
Oh.
And the Piranha remake.
Oh. Piranha 3D?
Whatever one had Elizabeth Shue in it.
It's classic cinema.
I mean, it really is.
You do get to see a 3D penis float through the water that's just been bitten off by piranhas. So,
I mean, so score.
And it's Jerry O'Connell's penis, I believe.
Oh.
Stand by me.
I'd rather be attached to him, actually.
Oh, he was a douche in that movie. He was playing a...
Was it the Girls Gone Wild?
Yeah, he was playing the Girls Gone Wild producer or whatever. He played it really well.
I love that movie. I also love High Tension. I think High Tension is one of the best horror movies made since the 2000. Yeah. And this director is amazing. So I can't wait to see what he does with this. And it seems like a whole lot of fun.
When does it come out?
This comes out in June, I think.
So, quote unquote, this month.
Yeah.
We may or may not be recording the month ahead.
It's coming soon.
Speaking of coming soon-ish, It Chapter 2 trailer dropped.
Fucking A again.
Oh my God. I can't wait for this.
Really. I really love the first It so much. It was good. I guess It Chapter 1 is what we're calling it.
That was a masterful trailer. I love trailers that actually show like scenes, essentially. And it was just one long scene, and then it kind of quickly does some, quick takes after that. But it was such a good scene of her, Jessica Chastain, going back into town or whatever.
Really. I mean, and if you're going to like showcase one of these, I mean, I think that the cast of It Chapter 2, the adults that got to play these roles is so good. I think it's amazing how they paired them up to the child actors. But if you're going to feature an actor in a long scene like that, it might as well be Jessica Chastain. I mean, shit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, she's just amazing.
There's some heavyweights besides her in this film, too.
Like Bill Hader. Yeah. I mean, like, it's going to be really, really good. At least I hope so. The thing is, for this trailer, I was waiting and waiting and waiting, as we all have been, for a trailer for this movie. And the opening part with just that scene of Beverly in her old house or old apartment with that creepy ass old lady was good. Unfortunately, the end of this trailer, when they start doing all those blast cuts to like the kids and like them walking as adults through the city, I was like, you don't need that. This is a teaser trailer. Just drop it after that scene. And that would have been the perfect end to that trailer. I think they went a little too far for me. So now I'm a little, like apprehensive.
I don't know. Like the first part was for people like fans like us. Okay. The second was for fans that want the popcorn horror.
Yeah,
you're
right.
And it took both groups to make the first one do so well, right? It's really catering to the hardcore horror fans as well as the casual horror fans. And it's kind of rare that a film does that. And that's why a lot of people are behind this franchise. So I guess it's not a franchise so much as it's just a series, but either way.
Well, if I swear to God, if they make an It Chapter 3 and it goes beyond Stephen King's book, that would be
don't do that. But
sacrilege.
One thing that I really like hearing out of this is like the kids were all like, yeah, we weren't too terrified, but he was scary the first time we saw him, like the clown. Mm-hmm. The adult actors are coming out and saying he's so terrifying. Like he's even more terrifying. This like gets like, because things that terrify an adult are different than the things that terrify a child, right? You can almost go cartoonish with the things that terrify a child versus an adult. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they update that and the things, because what he would turn into in the books were like the movie monsters, like the Universal monsters, right? The werewolves and the vampires.
That was when they were kids.
Like
so, yes. I mean, like when
they're adults. But for the movie, they translated that to much more gross and disgusting things to kind of update that, right? For the modern audience. And it's going to be interesting to see how they update it for the modern adult audience for chapter 2. And I can't wait to see this movie because it's going to be everything. I hope. I'm probably putting too much into it.
Well, and I don't want to do that too because I put a whole lot into the first movie.
I just want to have fun. It's not going to be like Schindler's List or anything. God, my God. But I just want to have fun and be entertained. And I know it's going to do that. And it looks competently made and well acted. And that's all I can ask for. And, maybe be a little scared.
Well, and honestly, I need to put expectations aside. There are many movies that get teased, when they're being made, right? And then even during production, I'm like, oh, I want to see this. I want to see this before I even know what the movie's about or having seen a trailer. Coming up in our recommendations section, I'm going to talk about something similar. And I wanted to see the first chapter of it so badly. And I went into it expecting the best. And I got the best, right? And so I really want Lightning to strike twice and have a fantastic bookend to this, something that I consider to be a whole movie.
But honestly, the story is bigger than the movie in a way, right? Because it's to me, it wasn't a perfect movie, but it was all I needed. It was more than I could have asked for. And that's what I want a second time. And I think that's achievable because it's the same team.
Yeah, I think so as well.
So good on it.
Next up is Midsommar, and we had talked about this on another Shooting the Flames when they released the teaser. And
you can just say Midsommar.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's Midsummer. I think they even say that in the trailer,
it's
right?
Midsummer.
It's just spelled all Scandinavian.
But oh my, even more God! This the first trailer teaser for this I wasn't too impressed with. I was just like, okay, I get it, culty, blah blah blah. But this full trailer is amazing. It's such a good trailer.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. I liked the teaser because, so we've already talked about how we feel about Hereditary, right? And it was a well-made movie. We had some issues with it, but I'm curious to see what Ari Aster does afterward. And I think based on this, he's going to give us another well-acted, well-made horror movie. Mm-hmm. And smart. It looks like a smart movie. And based on the teaser, you really don't know what's going on. And in this longer trailer, we sort of, get a more idea of what the story is. And it just looks incredible. It looks beautiful to me. And I know we've had conversations on this podcast before about style over substance, right? And it looks like this movie could be sort of on the cusp of that.
Well,
right?
Hereditary was.
Yeah.
And, I'm one of the people that didn't like Hereditary as much as some others. A lot of the horror community went crazy for it, and I didn't as much. I liked it. I certainly didn't not like it. So I'm hoping that, to me, this movie looks even more interesting to me. So if anything, I think I'm going to like it more just based on this full trailer.
Well, I am getting some crazy Wicker Man vibes from this.
Yep.
And I am so on board for it. I was not expecting that trailer to drop, and I saw it randomly on Twitter while I was scrolling through it, and I watched the whole thing, and I was just like, oh my fucking God.
Well, I like the tropes that are attached to this, like the trapped in open space, stranger in a strange land type of situation. That's what I liked most, I think, about the American version of say The Grudge. Was like that, agoraphobia-esque kind of quality to it.
Right.
And this looks like that's going to hit it on that nail on the head for me.
Not to mention toward the end of that trailer where they have that deformed face, sort of laying down in the bed looking at the camera. I didn't expect some that level of makeup tree or whatever to
Zelda, how'd you get in this movie?
Oh my God, it's Pet Sematary 3. But yeah, it just looks insane. And the cast looks pretty. I'm all about it, really.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the whole thing looks really sunshiny, right? And in horror movies, you don't get that very often. Everything is so dark and dreary in nighttime. And this looks like full on daytime horror. And I'm bring it to me right now.
That's another thing I like about it.
So look forward to that. Midsummer. I think it comes out in July sometime. Yeah.
The next trailer is for a piece of trash we like to call Rock, Paper, Scissors.
Well, we don't like to call it that. That's the actual name of this movie, Rock, Paper, Scissors. Everybody, before I came over to record this podcast, I was, again, scrolling through something on social media because that's what I do. And I don't know where I saw this, but I sat there and watched this whole trailer for a movie called Rock, Paper, Scissors about a serial killer who plays rock, paper, scissors with his victims.
Rock, paper, die.
It looks like a piece of trash, really, and that makes me very excited to see it.
Well, they're doing some things in this film that just pissed me off already in the trailer, like the whole nursery rhyme thing or whatever, the child's game trope. Let's just base a horror movie off of this or that, right?
Yeah.
It seems kind of formulaic. And the worst crime is they're putting an incredibly hot man in a stupid fucking doll mask.
For real. I mean, I know. So Chris was watching this trailer before we started to record, and he was like, take off that mask, you're hot. And I'm like, I agree. I was like, why would you do this?
And they're
terrible.
inconsistent too, because he like puts the mask on to kill them or whatever, but he has the mask off when he's like talking to them, so it doesn't really make sense.
Well, he
other
really
than to
wants
have
them
a
to
creepy
see
mask.
his hot ass face before they die. I don't know. I mean, but like, so you get the idea that if he plays rock, paper, scissors with his victim and they win, he'll let them go.
Yeah,
but that doesn't seem to happen.
Like, it's probably an easy death, quick death versus hard death or something.
I mean, but we have to talk about the level of acting that is in this movie already. Michael Madsen is this, and it looks like his finest performance, really. I mean, so he is just so over the top.
He didn't have Tarantino to rein him in, so he's always
if he can even do that too,
staring directly into the camera and screaming at it in this trailer. So,
but let's not forget that Oscar winner Tatum O'Neal is in this movie too. So I mean, they've got some high caliber acting going on.
We'll see.
I'm going to watch this movie as soon as it comes out. It's going to be a good movie when the end of the trailer says, look for it on VOD and DVD.
Yeah, it's like a who's who. Whatever happened to them?
Well, they made this movie. Okay.
Recommendations.
Well, it's time to move on from movies that have not come out and that we haven't seen to pieces of... I can't say movies.
Pieces of shit.
Pieces of shit we have seen. Sometimes. It's time to move on to movies that we have watched recently, and we want to tell you all about it. We'd like to be able to tell you go watch this or stay away at all costs.
Yeah. So I've continued to watch the Alien shorts, celebrating the 40th anniversary of the film Alien, obviously. And of course, the Alien shorts have continued, right? So the last one I saw was Night Shift. I have not seen some of the later ones that have come out since then.
Mm-hmm.
Night Shift was a kind of a meh one, in my opinion, but they're all really well made and worth a shot. I've seen several that have been excellent. So make sure, since they're all out now, I would definitely make sure everyone sees all of those. So all of those will be linked in the show notes.
And that is exactly what I was waiting for. I wanted them all to be released so I could sort of sit down and watch them all back to back to back, because I know that if I had watched them when they were released one by one, I would have been pissed off by the end of the first one.
I just hope they're on YouTube by now, because they were really hard to find on IGN, and that just pissed me off.
Well, thankfully, you linked all these things in the show notes, right?
Yeah, so it's super helpful for everyone else.
I mean, we couldn't find the trailer for The Lodge, but Chris made sure you had these shorts, so go watch them. So I watched a movie that's a little outside of my wheelhouse. I have said before in this podcast that I suffer from superhero fatigue, and I'm just not as excited about some of these superhero movies that are coming out. But I know that my husband really wanted to go see Avengers Endgame, and I needed to sort of catch up a little. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to watch Avengers Infinity War, and I had messaged Chris and I was like, do I really need to watch Thor Ragnarok? He's already told me many times that I would enjoy this movie, and I was going to just brush it to the side and just go straight into Infinity War. And my husband said, well, you might as well watch it. It's on Netflix. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm like, fine. So he and I both sat down to watch Thor Ragnarok, and my God, what a good movie that is.
I'm telling you, you can't have it's difficult to have fatigue of an entire genre, if that's what we're calling it, I guess now, because a lot of these movies are more comedy or more political thriller or like this or that, right? But they do share a universe, right? So you really have to kind of judge each of these movies on their own merits. Just like you would horror, there's certainly the difference between like Silence of the Lambs and, snow zombies or whatever.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. Yeah. There's a big difference, right? So it's like you can't just watch one of those and then judge the whole genre, right? It's easy to do that, especially when you're seeing these movies just churn out. You start to feel like you're being left behind. It's too much work to catch up to it. You don't barely care to begin with.
Yeah.
I get it. But it's like some of these are really, really good, like you experienced with Thor Ragnarok. So I'm really glad you got the chance to see it.
And that is exactly the point of me talking about this fatigue, is that every time I turn around, it seems like there was another one and another one and another one.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of people feel about horror in the horror ghetto, right? The quote-unquote horror ghetto, the sci-fi ghetto. There's people that just disdain fantasy or sci-fi or horror or this or that for X reasons, right? And those reasons just don't hold any water. And we're all guilty of it, right? We all have our elitism towards certain things in life. But we've got to just like step back and like start judging things individually, because I've done that.
Well, and I do that all the time, really. But yeah. But I really, really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. It was like, it's a perfect movie almost. It's well acted, it's well paced, it's beautiful to look at, it's well directed. Characters that I didn't really care for in the universe, I now care for quite a bit. And there are new characters coming in. That Valkyrie is by far my favorite character in the entire Marvel universe at this point.
Dranks.
They
nailed a tone.
Love her. Well, it was a great movie. And so I was like literally crying at one point watching this. It was so good. And my husband looked over and he was just like, see, don't poo-poo the superhero movies before you see them. And I'm like, you're right, baby. And then we watched Avengers Infinity War and I was just like, So, you can't always get it right. This movie was great. But Chris and I both watched Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
In the theater when it came out, right? So, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I'm a lot more invested, I would say, because, of course, I grew up with Marvel Comics. I'm a comics reader, still to this day. And, of course, I also grew up with, like, X-Men animated series and stuff. So
I love that animated series.
I've always kept up, and I'm invested. So, I shed a tear during Endgame, and I thought Infinity War was amazing. See, to me, also on a technical standpoint, I come at it from a different perspective that way, because this has never been done before. In 10 years, we've got 21 movies or something that are culminating in a shared universe into one crescendo, and I thought they did it. I couldn't have asked for anything better. And like you're seeing a lot of like blowback with some different series or different movie series that just didn't end the way that people want or whatever. But these people really, really, really care about this, not only as an investment at, Disney and Marvel Studios, but something they really are passionate about and care about just as much as the fans do. Mm-hmm. And so it was handled so well. It was like watching someone put together a 1,000,000-piece puzzle, and doing it very, very well and perfectly. So there's people that have their issues with the film or whatever. I'm not one of them. It's like, yet again, it's not like Oscar winning amazing.
I don't know on that point. I think come the end of the year, I think that Avengers will probably be.
I'm hoping it does get recognized for the achievement, at least technically and storytelling wise, that it is. Nothing ever has been done like that before. And
it was a very, very good movie. It was well made. I think that if I were making it, I probably would have cut maybe 20 minutes out of it, but I think like even then, maybe not. I think it sort of needed every single piece of that movie to tell the story that it was. I'm coming from a place where I have not seen all the movies leading up to it. I started out very strong with the Marvel universe because I went to go see them with you and, my husband and then sort of like fell off the wagon somewhere. But watching Endgame, I can see the level of artistry that went into it. And, I sort of want to go back and like see some of the movies that I didn't get to see.
Yeah, because of course, if you didn't see, maybe like half of those movies or like a third or something, then you're missing some of that
Black
investment.
Panther.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Ant-Man.
Yeah.
But I can see how this movie can be recognized by the Academy. I can see a Best Picture nomination for this completely. If anything, if you look at like Lord of the Rings, when it finally won Best Picture for Return of the King.
Part of it was because of its achievement.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because if you really want to look at it, like Lord of the Rings itself is one long movie. And if you really want to look at it, the Marvel Universe could also be one long movie, right?
You could think of it that way easily. And it's not probably not going to win any acting awards or things like that. But it could certainly be up for, editing, directing, visual effects, technical awards, things like that. But if they, if of course the Academy Awards is about achievement, then this would be it.
Yeah.
This would be something that at least needs to be nodded at.
And it should be. I mean, don't be cowards, Academy. You can nominate movies that deserve to be nominated.
Yeah.
When did you shed a tear? I'm curious.
So a lot of people shed a tear when Iron Man dies.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoilers.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oops. Oh. Well, if the Film Flamer spoiled something,
but you know what?
Good.
Everyone's seen this fucking movie. It made like a gobbledygillion $billion already. So I mean, like, come on.
Yeah, if you have not seen this film, like, what cave are you living in, and when can I move in? But no. And do you have Wi-Fi? But no. Yeah, like I cried when Captain America or whatever is standing alone, essentially, against Thanos.
Yeah.
Which is a really good villain, honestly. He's not cartoonish other than being cartoon, but
no, he's a multi-dimensional villain.
He really is. Yeah. And then all the portals start opening up and all of the heroes come out, and like one by one you see like he's not alone, and you see all the people that have died have come back and everything, and my eyes are tearing up as but like for me, like for the comics fans, I think that's the moment versus like Iron Man dies. It's like, like it's not meh. It's sad, right? But it's just sad. Like, to me, the moment was like the loyalty and the,
camaraderie
and we're here for you. We're backing you up and everything else. It was a cool moment.
I think we all know that I love a touch of melodrama to everything, right? I mean, I'm not happy unless it's on like the cusp of soap opera. And at the very opening, again, spoiler alert, of Endgame, when Hawkeye's family is snapped away or whatever, I was crying so hard. I was just like, this movie's going to be so good. I feel it. And then I didn't really cry again. But
well, you need to watch it again when it comes out on video at home.
Yeah.
The feeling you might like it more. Probably the more familiar you are with these characters, I think the more.
And that's true. And I will say, when all those portals open and the heroes are coming out, as soon as the Valkyrie came out on Pegasus, I mean, I almost spit out my PBR. I was just like, yay! Yeah, it was a good movie. I'm glad that I saw it. So, and I withdraw.
And I got a surprise Tilda Swinton cameo.
Oh, that's amazing. Right. And that reminds me too, because I also told Chris, I was like, I think I need to watch Doctor Strange.
It's probably the most visually impressive of all of them up into Infinity War and Endgame. It's amazing.
I think I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
So,
I guess the next thing I want to talk about, man, this is heavy. We got peak pop culture, guys. It's like with Endgame and everything else. Game of Thrones. I watched the Long Night and the Bells episode. So that was episode 3 and episode 5. And of course, we are recording this the day before the series finale. So obviously, as you listen to this, we're going to get more. But really, the Long Night, and I'm going to talk about this less of a Game of Thrones series standpoint and more of like judging these episodes by themselves. We got 2 different episodes, one that takes place at night, one that takes place during the day, one that has to do with ice, one that has to do with fire, and they were both essentially horror movies. Mm-hmm. And The Long Night is basically one, hour and a half horror movie as an episode of television, essentially. And it was done really, really well. The tension was done really, really well, in my opinion. The pacing was done really well. Those zombies got World War Z up in that, castle or whatever. And there was a lot of really, really cool horror moments in this episode, from like a single person trying to keep away from zombies, to the hordes of zombies coming towards an army, towards all the torchlights of the army trying to fight the zombies suddenly disappearing and wondering what happened to them. And there's a lot of really, really cool horror moments. And I couldn't not talk about that on our horror podcast, And of course, the Bells, where spoiler, Daenerys goes the cray-cray and basically burns down down the entire city, and women, children, everyone, just burns them all to a crisp. And that was pretty horrific, because we see the the view on the streets. Essentially, we don't get it from Daenerys's perspective, or the dragon's perspective. We get it from people watching and being, from above in the castle, and we also get it on the ground mainly, and showing how horrific it is to be on the other side of that. And it was like, it was really, really, really technically well done and well directed episode. I think we could have a whole episode dedicated to like the themes and the character development and things like that in these episodes, but that's not what I wanted to mention. I just wanted to call out these 2 episodes as really, really good pieces of filmed horror.
Well, and I think that maybe sometime on Patreon coming up, once we've had time to sort of digest this final season, we might be able to have some sort of like look back on Game of Thrones and at least talk about the final season itself. But you're right. I think that so far in this last season of Game of Thrones, we've gotten so much horror. The Long Night episode where Arya is like stuck in the library with those zombies and she's trying to be very quiet and sort of escape, I think is an amazing piece of horror cinema. Right?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's classic. It's classic Romero. I mean, it's amazing. I had a hard time with that episode because it was so dark a little bit.
Oh, see, like I didn't have that problem. I guess on my screen, everyone in the world basically had that problem. I didn't notice it because I'm a huge nerd. And I calibrate my TV to like perfection. And of course I have like a 4K like OLED TV. I'm streaming it too. So I get the color banding and stuff because that just comes with the stream.
Right.
But you're going to see a whole lot more if you ever get this on Blu-ray or something else. Also, when you're watching this at peak times, the day or even the day after, you're probably not going to get the best stream either, even if you have the best connection, because other people, so many more. I mean, literally I just saw an article that literally a third of all of America population, number-wise, is watching Game of Thrones every
and that's
every
fucking
Sunday night.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like, really, when we say like height of pop culture, if we have something like Endgame and the end of Game of Thrones, like in the same time period, this is something that people are going to talk about forever.
I mean, we're a population of 300 plus million people, I believe. So that means 100 million people essentially just in America are watching, Game of Thrones
On a pay for channel.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I will say from the Bells episode, I really, really enjoyed, and again, I mean, like spoilers, but I mean, come on. When Arya was like left alone in that city and she finally woke up and everything was done. It was like full on horror adjacent disaster realness when she's covered in that ash and she finds that horse and shit. And I was
Poor
just
baby
like,
Kill Bill.
Poor baby Kill Bill. I know. But she found that horse. I mean, come on. And she rode it to, we assume, safety. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. But, I mean, those episodes were great. In a season that maybe lackluster to people's opinions now, but I think later on we might change our mind.
Yeah, I've looked back a lot and I've looked back at other things. I think a lot of this is that we waited 1.5 years for it.
Yeah.
And everyone just wants it to be perfect, right?
Exactly.
But it's like what Ramsey said in an early season. If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
That's right.
Yeah. It was never going to have anything more than a bittersweet ending at best, right?
And I mean, we'll probably at some point have some sort of episode talking about Game of Thrones, and we don't know sort of what channel that'll be on, but stay tuned. It should be coming up. I watched a movie on Netflix that I have been looking forward to for the greater part of a couple years, and that is Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. And it is a movie about Ted Bundy and his relationship to a woman that he was with while he was murdering a whole bunch of women.
The trailer for that was off-putting to me. It seemed like it was like making it almost like a rom-com or something. And then people were just like crushing over him or whatever. And
well, he's hot.
The whole thing like kind of weirded me out to a point where it's like, this is getting a little ridiculous. And based on that trailer and then the reaction that I was seeing online, like the tongue-in-cheek memes of, oh, Dahmer's so hot or whatever, I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna get into this.
Well, I'm here to tell you, the movie itself is very good.
Oh.
Like it has its problems. It's not a perfect movie. I got onto Letterboxd and I rated it a 3-star.
So don't like romanticize Dahmer?
No, it's not. Well, I mean, it's Bundy.
Oh, fuck. It didn't romanticize Bundy?
No, it's not about Bundy, really. It's about the woman that he was with during all this. Oh,
sorry. You're like, it's not Dahmer, and then it was like Bundy, and you're like, it's not about Bundy, and I'm like, who is that about?
So, I mean, like, the movie is about the relationship between Ted Bundy and the woman that he was seeing while he was committing these murders, right? And a lot of it is told from her perspective. It's like, you know, all these stories you hear about, like, the spouse figuring out that their, you know, loved one is a serial killer or murderer or something like that, and how they take it. There's not a single death in this movie. You don't get to see a single murder at all. It's just about, you know, watching this couple while he's slowly going insane and doing all these things.
So what's the so what here? Just to show that other perspective as a piece of interest? Or?
Well, I mean, she wrote a book and it's based on the book or whatever, you know, her memoir.
Fair enough.
But Zac Efron is amazing in this movie. I mean, like, he plays Ted Bundy to a T. You know, I mean, like, comparatively, they look similar, right? But you can tell that he sort of like studied him in some sort of way to get his acting down. Like, there's like dead behind the eyes, even. Like, he does it so well.
I'm sorry, that just reminds me of the Thor Ragnarok's director, Taika Waititi.
Right. Oh, what we do in the shadows? Yeah.
And he's playing Hitler in a movie coming up.
Is he really?
And like, did you do any research? It's like, no, I didn't do any research because he's a fucking cunt and I don't act like a fucking cunt.
Well, I mean, like, and I know that Zac Efron was an executive producer on this movie or whatever. And so it premiered at Sundance and it didn't have a distributor at that point. And so Netflix bought it and I was like, oh, great. It's going to be really shitty. But I mean, it was an enjoyable watch.
So was that the name of the book too?
Yeah.
Wow. She must be angry.
It's a really bad title for a movie too, don't you think? It's real long. I mean, I have to look down every time. And I just wrote the acronym EWSENV and I had to think to myself, like, deep down, what is it? And I hope I said it right. Extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile. No, vile.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Either way, it's good. It's a good movie.
Okay.
And Zac Efron's really pretty. And you get to see his butt, you know? I mean, but like, for people who are really into true crime, which I am, not as much as I was in the past, you know, but I mean, it was a decent movie about true crime. A lot of times you get some really, really shitty ones, and this is good. I mean, we're talking about Oscar nominations for Endgame. I wouldn't be surprised to hear him talked about for award season. Maybe not the Oscars, possibly the Golden Globes or something, right? But I mean, like, he did a really good job. Like, I think he's losing his like Disney cred or whatever, and is slowly coming into an actual actor. So, and that makes me happy.
He seems so douchey to me in every role. Like,
I'd fuck him. I don't care.
Oh God. I saw Aquaman.
Oh my God, did you? My husband wants to see it so badly.
Really?
Yeah, he like, oh, I need to watch it with him because he always brings it up, and only because he thinks that actor is so fine.
Well, this actor is, what is his name from Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I don't even know his name on Game of Thrones.
And Stargate Atlantis.
Was he really in Stargate Atlantis?
Yeah.
Oh,
of course, now he's playing King of Atlantis or whatever in Aquaman. God, what is this name?
Jason.
No. Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa, something like that. Jason Momoa.
So yeah, it's Jason Momoa of Game of Thrones and several other. I think it was like on Hawaii Five-0 or something originally, without a beard and everything. Which, wow. And then of course he was on Stargate Atlantis for a quick minute. He's best known, of course, for Aquaman and Game of Thrones stuff. But at first I was just like, I'm not a huge DC fan to begin with. I like Superman or Batman, like the rest of them, I guess. I'm more of a Marvel guy. Their movies have really been kind of try hard. I did like Wonder Woman, but I haven't really liked anything that they've been coming out with in the last 5 years or so, I guess. But this was done by one of my favorite horror directors, of course. James Wan. And honestly, like, at first I was just like, okay, this is a shitty script. This is really cartoony storytelling. And then if you just let yourself like get into it, like, and I was on an airplane watching this and for lack of anything better to do. And I was just like, I'm curious. And so I watched it and I finally just kind of gave myself over to it and it was fun. It was just really honest popcorn fun. Like, it didn't take itself too seriously. And then as the movie goes on, it just weirdly gets more and more beautiful, because like the underwater scenes can be incredibly well done, like Avatar, times 10 or something. Like, there's a scene where they're like escaping a bunch of like evil things or whatever on a boat, and there's lightning in the background, and there's like hundreds of them, and then they dive down deep into the water to try and escape them even more, and they have a flare, and so you see this blackness, because they're so deep in the water, of this flare going straight down in the water, and this like hurricane of rotating evil monster things trying to go down, and it's just
really
beautiful shot. And there's a lot of different shots like that, and it was done so well visually. I have to get this on 4K HDR or whatever, because it's probably going to be one of the best things to showcase that kind of technology. And, the things they achieved on the screen visually was just amazing.
Panned though? Like,
no, it got good reviews, and it made a shit ton of money. Aquaman just came out of nowhere, because everyone expects Superman or Batman or even Wonder Woman to do really well. And the Aquaman came out, and it was James Wan. People were like, okay. And it came out, and it did super, super well.
Well, you're right. I'm looking at it right now on IMDb. It's got a 7.1 out of 10. So, I mean, that's pretty good. And I'm going through this cast. Nicole Kidman?
Yes.
Is in this movie?
In it.
Dolph Lundgren?
Yeah. Dolph Lundgren's in it.
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson, of course, the James Wan mainstay.
Yeah.
There's a couple others. God, what's his name?
Lee Wannell's in this movie, too.
I don't remember him. But there's another big guy.
He plays Cargo Pilot.
Who's the actor that played Green Goblin Spider-Man series?
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Is also in this. Willem Dafoe is also in this, and he was great, as always.
Okay. I knew I have to see this movie eventually.
It's just fun. It's not cerebral. It's not particularly well written, but it's just fun.
I mean, I oftentimes will throw my husband a bone and say, oh, well, that came out wrong. So we watched Thor Ragnarok, and we watched Infinity War, and we saw Endgame together, and I know he really wants to see this, and so, I mean, like, I'm going to have to watch it eventually. So, I mean, now that you've said that it's good, I'm more in line for it. However, I will say that we've watched all these comic book movies together, and he has yet to watch a horror movie with me in the last like months. So, if you're listening, husband of mine, your time has come.
Did you ever see The Field Guide to Evil?
I did. Oh, I did watch that one. I know we had talked about that. We saw this trailer when we saw Climax, right?
Yeah.
And we were intrigued by it. And then it ran at the Alamo Drafthouse for about a week in multiple cities. And it was always at a time that no one could go see it, right? At like 10 p.m. on a Monday. So, but it was also released on Amazon to rent or buy. And I was like, I'm going to buy this because I know it's going to be good. And I mean, it is, and it isn't.
Is it a 3 for you?
I rated it a 3. For those of you who don't know what it is an anthology about folklore from around the world. So different directors and writers have created their short film essentially from a piece of folklore from their specific country. And some of the stories are fantastic.
So that leads me to think that it's supposed to be representative of that country in a way, right?
It should be. That's what I would think.
And then
too.
I was asking you about the American one, and you were like, no, it's just like so random.
Yeah, so the American one is about the melon heads.
I've never heard of that.
And I was just like, I don't know what this fucking is. And I've lived in America for 40 years. And I'm like, really? So I had to get onto Google to see what a melon head was. And apparently it is a part of folklore from America. I was like, but really, out of everything that we have, like the fucking hook,
America
and shit
like
that.
Canada or Brazil or
America like the Appalachian area or something. Well. I don't know. It was not. The American one was terrible. The first 2 stories in this movie are so good.
Oh, wow.
And they're kind of long too. I mean, I think one like stretched really close to the 20-minute mark. And for an anthology, that was a lot. But it was so well made and so pretty to look at. And it had some like LGBT themes going on in it. And I was like, this movie's going to be great if we keep doing this. And unfortunately, that was not the case with this. I mean, like other anthology movies, not every story is going to be as good as the one you saw before that.
Yeah.
But I mean, out of like, I think like the 7 or 8 that were shown, half were very, very good. The other half, however, were very, very not.
Oh, there you go. Ones and fives equal a 3.
There you go. I mean, I would recommend that people go watch this, especially if you are interested in folklore or other cultures.
If nothing else than like for a piece of edutainment.
Yeah. For real. I mean, you can learn a lot. And I did. I Googled some of these like folklore tales and I learned a little bit more about them after I watched it. And to be fair, I mean, I did not watch this movie in one long sitting. I sort of broke it up. And I think it's okay to do that in an anthology, especially when the anthology is not tied together by any sort of overarching story. And this one is not. It's just one story after another. So you can find it on Amazon. Go watch it and let me know what you think about it. I mean, I sort of stand by my judgment. Now that I've purchased this movie, and I almost never say this, but I'm not going to watch it again.
Okay, well.
So
thank you for sparing me.
No, you should watch it. I want to know what you think.
Okay.
But only watch the ones that I say are good.
Well, I kicked off Pride Month by watching, finally, Love, Simon.
Oh, yeah, I still haven't seen this movie.
It was good. It was not particularly the best written thing I've ever seen as far as dialogue, et cetera, but it was kind of refreshing to see a movie that was mainstream and like teen dramedy.
Yeah,
I would say, that is, it's obviously a coming out story and everything that kind of surrounds that. But it really seemed, it wasn't like it wasn't camp, it wasn't over the top like American Pie, and it wasn't camp like a stereotypical older gay movie might be, or something that you might see. It was very real and it was very heartfelt, and I really, really enjoyed it. So if any of you have been on the fence for seeing something like Love, Simon, I would definitely check it out.
Well, and that describes me, because I was on the fence about seeing this movie. I know that when the trailers first came out, me and my husband were like, oh, we should go see that. It'd be a good date movie for us to go watch. And we just never did. And then we never watched it at home either. But
I liked it because it's not black and white either. Like there's some things that the protagonist does that he gets in trouble for, that's part of his journey of coming out and stuff, and how it affects other people in your life too, for better or worse. Regardless of whether accepted or not, sometimes there's other things that happen while you're in your process. And so it's just really interesting to see that on a side of like friendships and families and stuff like that.
So when you say dramedy, would you say it's more of a drama or a comedy though? I mean,
it's a drama with funny elements in it.
I mean, because I want to see gay movies that make me happy.
Oh, it ends on a good note. No, it's
okay. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, it's not the one that's about gay conversion therapy or anything.
Boy Erased.
No, it's just a good story. It's just a good coming out story, and it's kind of about the journey and everything, and it's fairly lighthearted. I mean,
so really, the next time my husband and I sit down into our living room to watch maybe a double feature of movies, we should start with Aquaman and like oogle over the hot guy, and then go into Love, Simon and be like, aw, by the end of it.
Sure.
I mean, okay. I mean, I'll take your recommendation.
There you go.
Flaming rant.
Oh, this makes me so mad.
Guys, finally, I have been looking forward to a specific documentary that premiered at Salem Horror Fest, I think, last year, and that was the Scary Stories documentary, which is about the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books for children that came out in the 80s and early 90s, and there's a Del Toro movie coming out this summer about it, so, I mean, like, everyone is talking about this sort of thing, and I was ready to watch this documentary about how these books were banned from libraries and the controversy that surrounded both the books and the art that was, contained in it. And unfortunately, this documentary is a piece of shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, if they had just stuck to talking about why these books were banned, and, I mean, there's lots of, like, talking heads from librarians who come on and say, like, no, we need to keep these books in our library for X, Y, and Z. It's teaching children about folklore and how to collect stories and things like that. It would have been great. But we are given just, like, these random people who pop up, and they're like, yeah, I love these books so much that I had them tattooed on me. Or I love these books so much that whatever. And I'm just like, no, I'm not really here to see like the art you've created. I want to know about the story behind making these books and the controversy they faced.
So it was like the wrong perspective.
Right. For me.
How could you sit down and make a movie like that?
Well, and that's the thing is this is almost an hour and a half documentary.
Oh my gosh.
And it should have been a short documentary. If it were a short feature documentary, a good like 30 to 45 minutes, it would have been perfect. But there was way, way too much. And I have been looking forward to this for so long, and I was hideously let down. And after I finished it, I was like, my God, if the Del Toro movie is bad, I'm going to be crushed. So it's already been made. It's already coming out in August. So there's no stopping it now. But if you are looking for a horror movie documentary to watch, do not watch this one. I'll list you another. Just hit me up on Twitter and I'll give you a whole list of horror movie documentaries to watch. But Scary Stories is not one of them. Womp womp. I got onto Letterboxd, and Chris, would you say that more often than not, I'll rate movies around like the 3 to 4 area, right?
I'd say I'm more average of 3, you more average of 4.
Yeah. I gave it a 2.
Ooh.
It was the first movie I've watched this year that I rated a 2 on Letterboxd.
You got to be really bad to piss him off that much to give you a 2.
I did not enjoy it. Before we run off, last month we talked about Billie Eilish and how her dark sounding music sort of like gave us these horror vibes, and how we wanted to talk about like darker music that we found. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens that one of my favorite musical artists, Ingrid Michaelson, is releasing a new album in July to coincide with the release date of the 3rd season of Stranger Things. And that's because her entire album, called Stranger Songs, is inspired by the TV show Stranger Things.
No.
Yeah. At any rate, she released a single, and it's very 80s sounding, but almost in a 2019 sort of way. And she came out as saying that the story in the song is about a love triangle from the show, which is Nancy, the sister of one of the boys, and, you know, her 2 love interests, the preppy guy and Winona Ryder's son. Yeah. I have to say, honestly, I've only seen the first season of Stranger Things, so
we know what you're talking about.
Good. Anyway, it's an awesome song. It's sort of horror adjacent. I think everyone should go listen to it, and perhaps at the end of the show, you might hear a little bit of it.
I've added it to my playlist.
Good. Well, guys, I think that we have shot the flames quite enough for June.
Oh, yeah, this is an extra long Shooting the Flames.
Good. Well, I hope y'all enjoy it. If you have anything to add to our discussion, please go to social media and find us at The Film Flamers on Facebook and Twitter. And I'm proud to announce that we finally have an Instagram account.
We weren't too old to use it.
That's right. Well, we still may be. I'm learning. So bear with me. I'm trying my hardest, but go over to Instagram and find us, also The Film Flamers.
You can also email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com.
That's right. You can also find all of our episodes in the past at our website at filmflamers.com. And if you want even more content, like we said earlier, head over to patreon.com/thefilmflamers and find all of our bonus content. We are always putting that out there for you and adding some more new interesting stuff soon. So go check that out. You can find all bonus episodes for as little as $2.
And stay tuned for next week when we honor Pride Month by covering Stranger by the Lake. And we might have a special surprise in store for you as well.
Look forward to that. Well, Chris, I don't think I have anything to say. I am certainly a tired queen right now. So...
I'm a tired queen. You're a tired queen.
Oh, fuck yeah. Well, I just admitted to that. I don't know. We're getting off the rails. So, until next month, guys.
Sweet dreams.
He's got his hand in all the right places, but the wrong faces in front of me. I close my eyes and see you so clearly, but you're not here and it's killing